I'm so annoyed.
All right. Hello. Welcome to the Tech Pixie Sparkle and Thrive podcast. Oh my goodness. Now, backed by popular demand is Lisa Mellis, who is one of the people on our team, but also definitely not the only person in the UK trying to create a tropical garden, but probably one of the few people and who is trying to inspire other people to do that through her YouTube channel. And I just want to catch up with Lisa and talk about this because I remember the first time, Lisa, that you were thinking about doing this and you were panicking and you're messaging me like, I have this thing, I feel like I should do it, but I'm nervous about it. So for those of you who don't know Lisa, Lisa is our design and brand manager. So she does all of the amazing starry designs we have at Tech Pixies. She started out as a social media manager with us, but she's just got an incredible array of talents. So Lisa, welcome back to the show. Your last
Thanks for having me.
Your last episode is one of our most popular ones, so I'm really delighted to have you here. So tell me what inspired you to create a tropical garden in England and then to talk about it on YouTube.
I think it's part of the challenge, I think, for me is wanting to do something that is, I say challenge, but actually the UK weather is actually really, really good for growing all sorts of things. It's only really the winter that you've got to contend with to kind of, protect your tropical plants. So, but the challenge of growing something that is tropical and, makes me feel happy every day and having something that is kind of unusual is to make gardening attractive because it's so good for mental health. It's so good for, all areas of life. I think who wouldn't want a tropical garden? Who wouldn't want a jungle in their backyard? So that's one of the reasons why I started. I have to say, though, it is a growing community. There are tropical gardeners in the UK. There are a few channels that I am really inspired by, and I had been watching. And I think one of the tips when you're thinking of starting a YouTube channel is to think about what you're interested in, and what are you watching on YouTube? If you're watching loads of this gardening content, that is going to feed the algorithm because they will show people your videos to what you're watching. So I watched this guy called George's Jungle Garden. Called George's Jungle, and they show I've looked through the analytics, and I know that they're showing my videos to people, to that audience, to the people who watch his channel. So whatever you're watching, that's a good way to get started. But I think the first thing when you're thinking about starting up a channel, because I'm assuming that a lot of people who are watching this are maybe thinking of starting a channel, or are looking into it, or maybe they don't know they want to start a channel. One of the first bits of advice I can say is start before you're ready. That is what all the YouTube experts say. Start before you're ready, because if you wait for a time when you are ready, it'll never come. And also, you've got to remember that nobody's watching your early video. Well, some people are watching your early videos.
I watched your first videos.
I'm glad. But I think all my friends and family, it's so funny because they're watching my videos. And that's not really the people who you want to be watching the videos. You want people who are interested in gardening, really, or interested in whatever your niche is, whatever your topic is. So, your mom and your gran are going to be watching some of your videos, but they're not going to be your best audience. Your best audience is somebody who's trying to do a tropical garden in their garden, and they want to get tips and they come back.
Is that where the description of your videos and the titles of your videos start to really matter from an SEO perspective when you're just starting out, that you make sure that it's searchable?
I think there's a lot that matters in terms of SEO. I think one of the things is everything that you say is transcripted. So everything, as well as the tags and the descriptions, the tags and the descriptions are important. I mean, the description for me is important because I need to put all the copyright in for videos and jingles and music that I've used. That's very important because they will take you down if you start stealing other people's, well, you can borrow people's music and acknowledge them. That's fine, but only certain tracks and things like that. But the copyright for me is quite important there. But yeah, in terms of SEO, they'll transcript everything you say. So if you're a swearer, don't swear, because that's gonna start them showing you less and less to people. So that's quite important not to do that. But I think when you start off, I think that one of the first things you want to do is set your goals. So if your goal is to have fun on YouTube and just you know, chat to your friends, share your holiday snaps, you're probably already meeting your goals. You know, if that's what your intention is, then you're already doing a good job. If your intention is to make money, then you need to know that. You need to think, is that what I want out of it? My intention is I'd like to make money from it. I would like to use it to pay for my gardening. I'd like to use it to pay for a hobby that I have that's quite expensive, you know. So yeah, I'd like my channel to make money, but to be able to make money, there's certain things that you need to be keeping on top of, you know, consistency being one of them, which is a hard one, you know, especially if you've got, you know, full-time job or whatever. You consistency is difficult to keep. Let's talk
about consistency on YouTube, because, you know, we know, I mean, we teach social media at Tech Pixies, and we know there's different frequencies for different networks, right? So, you know, Instagram wants you to feed it stories pretty regularly. You know, Facebook is not as important to get content out every single day. It's actually more about getting good content out and then getting that content shared so it reaches more people. Pinterest, you got to just is like Twitter. You got to put lots of stuff out there and then see what works and see what sticks. It's like throwing spaghetti at a wall sometimes. Where, you know, and LinkedIn is also consistency, but not in the frequency, let's say, of Instagram. So it's a little bit more like Facebook in the sense that you're putting out content and making sure it gets shared and commented on. That's really the priority on those networks. So with YouTube, when you talk about consistency, I interviewed Kathy Hay on our previous interview, and she's got, you know, a very, very large following on YouTube, and her frequency, you know, varied, but it was at least one kind of craft email or one very crafted video a month, plus another kind of shorter, less crafted one. So she's sort of, her frequency is actually only, and consistency is only about twice a month, but they're quite elaborate, and it's towards this peacock dress she's creating. Where do you sit in terms of the consistency and frequency that you like to see?
It depends. I think they say early on you should be trying to throw out as many videos as possible, and to keep them quite short. Now, I haven't always done that. I've tried sending out some that are 15 minutes and see how they do. Didn't do very well, actually. Sending some that were, you know, middle of the range, you know, but you need to, I think early days, consistency, if you can, don't worry about perfection at all. Just ignore that. I mean, I try and get nice graphics just because I like nice graphics, and you don't worry about any of that. You don't have to do any of the fancy stuff, and keep it cheap. Use your camera on your phone when you start off, and just
so your first videos in terms of length, you know, the ones that seem to be working, getting views and traction, how long are those?
Roughly about 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes.
5-6 minutes.
The only way they do slightly better is well, it's all about retention. It's about how long people are sat watching your videos. I think my last one was 15 minutes because I hadn't done a video in a while, and I thought I'll whack on that one and see how it does. It did it upped my sort of average watch time, because people watched it until about 7 minutes and then went, oh, forget it. So it did up my watch time a bit, but I'm not at the stage yet where I can put out 15 minutes and hold the audience for the full.
Okay, but that's really interesting. So you're looking at your analytics and you're saying, okay, how long am I retaining people? And you saw that 7 minutes, when you moved to 15 minutes, the 7 minutes was the drop-off point.
Yeah.
Previously, you were able to get retention on the 5 minutes pretty well.
Yeah. But they say when you're starting off, keep them really short. Keep them as short as you can. And put out
nice and short, nice and sweet and short.
And put out as many as you can as well. I know I'm not really sort of living by these rules because I haven't, but that's because I'm a bit obsessed with the graphics. Like, I really like that kind of thing. But if you're starting up a YouTube channel and you're not bothered about the graphics, and don't be, just whack out loads and loads of short 2-minute videos. I think that's really important. Also, one thing that's really, really
wait, let me just pause there for a second. When you say, you know, whack out loads of short ones, like, are we talking like
literally
every day for a couple weeks, just 1 2-minute video?
if you can put out 2 or 3 videos a week at 2 minutes, I think those are good odds. Because like I say, start before you're ready. So it's really important. And again, I'm not quite following that plan, but this is my advice. If you're just, if you're just starting out, loads and loads of short videos, and don't worry about the content, because you've got to start before you're ready. I think one thing that's really important is to have patience. Discipline, sure, if you're going to be, being consistent with it, you're going to have some discipline, because you're just going to have to keep going with it. But patience, definitely. Don't expect, it's not like Instagram. Okay, it's very unlikely you're going to have 1,000 followers in, a couple of months. It's extremely unlikely. Most channels will take between 3 and 5 years. I've written down, I've got notes, 3 and 5 years to get anywhere.
You've done your research.
I have done my research. I definitely have done my research. And that's a good thing to do as well. If you're starting up on YouTube, it's a good thing to kind of know. Well, I mean, that helps you as well, because if you're there with, I've got 147 or something followers. That is tiny amount. And that can be very off-putting, especially in the early days, because you're thinking, well, my videos are going out to no one. But it doesn't take much for one of your videos to reach the right person, who then I get what you would call golden subscribers. That's what I think. You get a few of these golden subscribers, and you know that they've sat and watched all through your video, because they're giving you comments, and you're actually getting relevant feedback, and asking you questions, and you get this kind of and they are what you want. So it's great that your family and friends are watching it, but don't be swayed by what they want you to do. Because I had a friend say to me, I prefer it when you do like funny stuff. Like maybe you could have like a rake hit you in the face or something. I said, no, I don't want to be like a gardening clown. I care about what I'm doing. So, try not to be swayed by friends and family or the rest of it, because your audience will find you, I think,
Yeah. Well, I will say it was really funny, because obviously we're having this whole series on YouTube because we've just replaced newsflash. We've just replaced Twitter in our social media magic program with YouTube, because of the growing demand for the skill set in YouTube. And that's why we've decided to launch this. So we have a free resource for people who are interested in finding out more about YouTube, getting started with YouTube. So if you go to techpixies.com/YouTube, you'll be able to get started with that. And I think that's really an important resource for people who are thinking, I don't know anything about YouTube and I'm interested in it. But what we've noticed is that this has become a very popular and very important skill set for people who are working in social media management or want to launch their own, businesses, for sure. So the other day my children are addicted to YouTube. They don't watch TV anymore at all. They're only watching YouTube. And I started to sort of say, well, what are you watching on YouTube? And a lot of it is like gamers showing them how to play the games they want to play better, right? Yeah. So they're learning how to play these games better. But they've sort of, my son sort of has moved off that, and he's gotten really into metalworks. And there's this guy that he started following, and he said, Mom, you're never going to believe this. He took a rusty nail and he turned it into a really nice knife, like a really, really nice knife. And I was like, no way. There's no way he did that. And actually, he was extremely entertaining. His video, he was funny, but then at one point in the video, he said, I had to take a break from this project, because I wasn't well mentally, and I've now come back and I'm feeling a lot better. And and he was really open about that. And so it's a personality too, isn't it, behind the YouTube video? You're not just you are a personality, and being true to your personality is very, very important.
I think so. I totally agree. I think one of the really important things as well, which I haven't mentioned, is when you start is you've got to choose your niche. It could be when you start out that, you are watching metalworking videos, or you are watching, videos about fossils or tennis or whatever your interests are. But I think it's really important that if you start doing videos, don't do just like a day in a life and Q&A with Lisa, that kind of thing, because it's just going to fall on deaf ears. You've got to really find that niche and exclude it to all others. Find a niche, but don't niche down too much. So for example, if I've got You Grow Girl, what I can then do is, it wouldn't be weird for me to talk about growing allotment veg or something like that. Well, it might, because seeing as I've sort of pushed the tropical thing, but you know, if you niche down really a lot, then you can't explore many other areas. But if you're too open, what will happen is you might attract people. You will attract a small amount of people who like you, and you'll attract people who like. So if you've got your niche is you're putting out videos of tennis, you're putting out videos of fossils, you'll attract some people who like tennis, you'll attract some people who like fossils, and a small amount of people who just like you. Now, for those people who just like you, it doesn't matter whether you put out tennis, fossils, whatever, but remember that's a really small percentage. If you're putting out videos of fossils, they will then show that to the people who like tennis, and then the algorithm will go, oh, people didn't like that video.
They're confused.
Yeah, so you confuse, you lose. You've got to put it through to the right people.
That's really interesting. So this concept of niching is important, so that the topic and the importance of what you say, you know, the words that you use, because that's actually the transcription is going through.
Yeah.
That's also important. But interestingly enough, this is what I find very different from, let's say, Instagram, and you know Instagram well.
It is different, yeah.
Yeah. So what you were saying was, don't just go on and say like day in the life or you know Q&A with me, unless it's completely targeted towards what you're doing. But I think that's something you would do on Instagram.
Oh, well, I'll take that back. Look, if I had sort of like, I don't know, like 10,000 followers, I might do that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do that now. That wouldn't
Got
work.
it. Okay. Because you can do live video on YouTube. In fact, we're doing a live video right now. This podcast is now filmed and broadcast live to both Facebook and YouTube at the same time, just because we have audiences. We're building up an audience on YouTube as well. So there's a question that's come in from our live audience, actually. Joanne says, can you schedule videos on YouTube like Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah, you can. You can. Yeah, for sure.
So as you're dropping, so that's one thing to do, is when you've got, let's say, a bulk of videos pre-done, you can pre-schedule those to drop out, so you're not chasing your tail.
Yeah, that would be a great thing to do. I mean, I'm trying to do some batch content now. I think being able to do batch content is really good. And also, if you're stuck on thinking what videos to do next, what you can do is you can actually go into YouTube. And so I might go into YouTube and type in, how do I grow, and see what comes up. So you'll see what other people are searching for. So I might say, how do I grow? And it comes up with tomatoes. I've done this recently because I went on and it said, how do I do layered planting, lasagna planting, you know, with bulbs. So I've just done a video on lasagna planting based on looking in that search history of what people are searching up.
So, okay, so that's a great piece of research, is to do what people are searching for. And then are you looking at the popular videos in those areas and then seeing what they're talking about and then creating your own version of that?
Yeah, yeah. And another thing I would say in making content is look around, look what other people are doing. I think it's a quote from Pablo Picasso is, good artists copy, great artists steal. So you look and you have a look on what other people are doing. Don't worry about if it's really, I mean, don't like do an outright copy, but you know, you've got to use that. You've got your when you first start off, you're kind of a nobody. So nobody's actually watching what you're doing. Or they might when you get more popular, they might go back and have a look at what you're doing. But that gives you a lot of freedom. Do you know, one of the things that people try and do is they try and grow really fast. And I would definitely not recommend you start doing ad spend on YouTube. I mean, yes, maybe when you have a couple of thousand followers, maybe, yeah, go for it. But when you're in your early days, it's actually quite a gift because you can do whatever you like. And there's this guy on one of the YouTube channels that I follow who talks about growing your YouTube channel. He says, use your season of obscurity to prepare you for popularity. And I think that's a really good way of looking at it, that actually you are in obscurity. You can put out whatever you can put out and try lots of different things, and it doesn't really matter, because you'll look back one day. I hope one day that when I've got lots of followers, I will look back at some of my early videos and I'll go, God, what was I up to there? What was that about? And kind of.
Well, talk to me about the graphics, because you love the graphics. You are you have a master's in design. So, you love design. Not everyone is at that level, but we, with the introduction of Canva and other tools, it's something that we can leverage to make graphics a bit better. Talk about the basic graphic elements that really work for YouTube, things like channel art and your thumbnails. But then also let's talk about, if you want to get more fancy, where you would go, what you would use. Okay.
So YouTube likes it when you use their features. Okay. So if you use the end card, they just like it. I don't know why, but the algorithm just kind of likes it if you use all the stuff that they offer you.
So talk to us about an end card for people who don't know what an end card is.
An end card is pointing you towards other videos that you've done, and it's sort of keeping you in that loop of people just staying with your content.
And you can decide what is best for people to go see after that video.
Yeah, you can, and it's really simple to do. But some of the things that you would need, so an end card is one of them. But I'll start at the beginning. So the first thing you'd need, I would suggest an intro. So maybe it could just be a graphic. It doesn't have to be a motion or anything like that. It could just be a still graphic with a logo on, or I don't know. Probably a logo is probably better. Which, you could design, or you could get somebody to do it. You can actually go on places like Fiverr and get people.
Wait, when you say an intro, you mean that's the intro to the video?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what editing software are you using to add in the intro?
Oh, really simple. I'm just using, I'm not using anything fancy. In fact, for any of my editing, for all of it, I'm not using anything fancy at all. I've found that the best thing to use is, what's that one that comes free? On Windows, it's Windows Movie Maker. And on a Mac, it's the free one. The really, you can use it on your phone, you can use it on your iPad.
Oh, the movie maker.
It.
It's iMovie or something like that.
iMovie Maker, something like that.
Okay, so you're just talking about, so you create the everyone's like iMovies.
That's the one.
We got lots of people listening, watching. They're helping us out. Okay, so iMovies, I love it. Thank you to the live audience for that input.
Really, really good. And I've watched a couple of YouTube videos of how, again, do that. Have a look at some YouTube videos of how people create channel art. But there was this one who was teaching you how to use iMovie, and there's so many tricks you can do with it, like adding the GIFs in. I put my start cards, my end cards, and they just stay there. You just leave it in there, and you can drop in music underneath, and that can just stay there.
And is your start card different from your thumbnail?
Yeah, only because at the end it's got space for the cards to actually go. But yeah, you could have something very similar. You could have something really similar. It could just be your graphic or something like that.
And how important is it to encourage people to subscribe as a call to action?
Oh, very, very. Yeah, you have to constantly keep reminding people to do that. You can ask. You can even ask. I don't tend to ask, but I might start asking, because if you look at your analytics, I'd say probably 80% of people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. So, it doesn't hurt to ask people, because it can help. But I stick in graphics for that as well. I also put in background music. But again, early days, you don't have to worry about any of this. But if you want to do background music, I'd go on to YouTube and have a look at free content music. So they'll have anything. You might want, you might want some kind of Chinese background music. So you type in Chinese free, copyright free.
Copyright free.
Yeah, you'd get something.
But you search for that on YouTube?
You search for it on YouTube, and I download it. The easiest way I find to download it is just download it directly from YouTube. So I go to Save from Net, and I just pull it across, download it, rip the music off. It doesn't really matter how you get it, but you just need to make sure that you credit that person. It's very, very important that you do that. But sometimes they'll put a link at the bottom where you can go and download their music from there. But I never bother with that. I just go from Save from Net and just rip the music off, and then you can.
So say that again, because it just cut out. Safe from Net.
Save from Net.
Save from Net. SAVEFROMNET.
So that's Save from Net. So that's where I normally go, just to rip the video off. They call it ripping it off. It's you rip the video off and then take the audio. Well, you can just drop the video actually inside Movie Maker, and it will just automatically just take the.
So once you rip the video off, you upload it into Movie Maker or iMovies, and then you just use the sound from it rather than the video.
Yeah. Or if you don't want to do it that way, and not everybody wants to use Save from Net, you can always go, because it can be a bit buggy. You can actually end up with a non-genuine site, so just be really careful with that. You can actually go in the link in the description. They'll probably have a website where you can go and download their music directly. That's also a way of doing it. I just like doing it that way because it's convenient. But
so people who create copyright-free music will often have a place you can just go download that copyright-free music from their website.
Well, yeah, because that's how they make their money. So they make their money, and if you really like their music, it might be worth giving them a like and a subscribe, because that's good for them as well. These people who are putting on this content, they all sorts. People put on. In fact, I used to use. I don't anymore, but I used to use. I don't know if you ever saw it. It had a like, subscribe, and a bell. I took that off as well. That's not mine. I have one now that is mine, but I haven't uploaded it. But I took that from a YouTube page. That's just a free green screen. It's free. You can use it. Anyone can use it. But I took that off, and there's a button that you can click that makes it green screen, and then it just floats above your video. So it's another really good trick. It's just really handy to have, just to remind people to like and subscribe. There's loads of those. There's loads and loads of free content, and they make their money from having loads of YouTube subscribers and people watching that content and downloading that content.
It was really interesting because we have one video that we've had up for years, like probably since 2018 or something, 3 years. It's now got over 5,000 views. And I went on to watch it last night. It's our Life Coaching Toolkit video 3 for the visualization, because I was trying to make a decision, and I always go listen to that video when I'm trying to make a really important decision. So I'm sitting there, I was plug it in and I want to play it. And then I just got pitched this person was pitching me something. And I was like, what? And then I'm thinking, hang on, we should be getting paid for this now. So, it's interesting how it does change, and how, obviously I got an ad in front of my own video, and I thought, oh no, and that was an interesting experience that's the first time that's ever happened to us at Tech Pixies, where someone else has bombed our video with an ad,
Well, and then, but I mean, you can monetize your video after, I think it's about 1,000 followers. I can't remember, it's 1,000 followers for sure. But I can't remember and you've got to reach a certain amount of watch hours as well.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, that's good to know too. And that's part of your strategy, is to get there. So you've got the ad revenue to pay for your garden, which I love. Yeah. I love what you said. You need a goal, right? Mm-hmm. And then you also said all this graphic stuff that we just talked about, all the music, you don't need to start with that. You just get started. Get started before you're ready. Any other top tips you have for us how about channel art? Is channel art important?
If you've got a recognizable brand already, then yeah, keep up with that and keep it consistent with your brand that you've already got. But if you're just starting out, again, you can pay people to do this stuff. If you go onto like Fiverr and things like that, you don't have to be a graphic designer. Actually, you don't have to be a graphic designer to be on YouTube at all. You can be completely clueless if you want. But you
could hire someone on Fiverr to do all the start cards, the end cards, the thumbnails, the channel art.
Yeah.
Or you can go and use Canva and figure out how to do it.
Yeah. And some people even get quite far with. No, not some people. A lot of people get quite far without using graphics and fancy stuff because their audience isn't bothered. Maybe try and, if you're not sort of into graphics or it's not your thing, I would just say try and get good lighting. I think that's quite important. I've got a lighting ring set up here right now, but I don't really use it because I'm outside most of the time. If you're going to start spending a bit more money on it, well, try and get a nice backdrop. Maybe a stand. If you're using your phone, I would maybe get a stand, something like that. Good lighting. If you're starting to spend a bit more money, audio is the way to go. Get really good audio, because obviously that's your transcript. You want it picking up everything you say. I don't always follow that because I do mumble a bit, but
well, what I found is actually, I mean, on a computer, I have a microphone, which is the Yeti Blue.
Yeah.
But I think the iPhones are very powerful, and
very good.
Yeah, so I think they're very good. Okay, so this is great. You've given us some amazing tips, and I know people are looking forward to getting stuck in on YouTube. And like I said, we've got this brand new guide. The amazing Abby Moore, who is on our team, she's created this YouTube guide. It's free. It's a get started guide. It gives you everything you need to know to get started. Very similar to our podcast guide. Everything you need to know to get started and get off the ground with YouTube. It's you got to go there, techpixies.com/YouTube. I think there's so many golden nuggets in here. I think one is show up and do it before you're ready. 2 is stick to your personality. Stick to be true to who you are. Be authentic. Niche down, focus on something that people want to really zone in on, focus on.
Yeah.
And for you, that's tropical gardening. Have a goal. For you, your goal is to eventually be able to fund your hobby with this adventure. And it's also, a great way to learn new skills and try different things. And don't feel like you've got to be super advanced right away. Get 2-minute videos out 2 to 3 times a week when you're starting. And you can kind of worry about the rest later. Have I captured almost all of everything you've said?
I think so. Oh, thank you. I think so. There's one more thing that I want to talk about. And that is, and I actually think it's really important. And I want to tell you a little bit of a story if
go for it.
Open to it.
I think we both now have had cups of tea delivered.
I've had a coffee delivered. How lovely.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks. I hope maybe my t-shirt will come in next. That'll be great. I had a t-shirt made for this interview, but anyway, I'll have it on the picture for the podcast. So anyway, one of the things I want to talk about, and I'll tell you a little story about this, is negative comments. I think one thing that you cannot avoid with YouTube is negative comments are inevitable. And I don't even know what it is about YouTube, because I follow this woman who has got a beautiful tropical garden, and she gets negative comments and she gets like thumbs down and things like that. And I think, what is there not to like? People are funny on YouTube. You do get people just sort of just making comments sort of on everything and putting thumbs down on things, but just ignore that. And I've got a story of why I think you should kind of just leave that where it is. One thing to note is if you are starting to get thumbs down on your videos, which I've had a few, especially in the early days, where you've got like 5 thumbs up and like 2 thumbs down. It's a bit like, oh no. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It means nothing. So the thumbs down are actually work as a positive, because what YouTube does is they count that as a view, and they don't count towards anything bad. So actually, they can work in your favor. So if you've got thumbs down, what it does is YouTube thinks that that the people have watched it, seen your video, and cared enough to rate it. So actually, it's not a negative if you get thumbs down. If you have millions of followers and you get like 100, and nothing's going to happen. You're not going to get phone calls from YouTube or something if you've got 100 thumbs down. If you had like 1 million followers and a few thumbs down, then a few thousand thumbs down, they might look into it to see if you're doing anything offensive. But other than that, it's nothing to worry about that. So anyway, that's by the by. I just want you to know that just kind of ignore it and think to yourself, oh great, that's another rating, so that's fine. I had a negative comment on one of my videos, okay, and it made me have a bit of a crisis of conscience, okay, so I think it's quite an important thing to talk about. One of the people on my videos had put, so I've got this statue in my garden, okay, and I've had it for several years. It's a statue of Ganesha that I have in my garden. Typical teacher, I bought props. Once a teacher. So yeah, I've got this statue in my garden, and somebody said it, as a Hindu, I don't appreciate you having that statue in your garden because, Ganesha is normally found in a temple. It wasn't like nasty negative, but it was a negative comment. And I really had some time thinking about it, kind of going, first of all, I apologized, obviously, and I stand by that. I'm not trying to do cultural appropriate. I mean, it is a plastic statue, but I can't afford a marble statue. So, it's really important that you kind of think about. So I had this negative comment. What do I do about it? I thought, shall I get rid of it? Shall I take it to a charity shop? Shall I, what do I do? Do I take it to the recycling centre? And I thought, why do I like it? Why do I want it? Because I was really thinking about this. And I started thinking about it. Well, I've spent a lot of time in India. So when I was growing up, when I was younger, I spent a lot of time in India doing, I traveled around India, climbed the Himalayas. We built a school. I spent a lot of time there. Now, my dad, who was an entrepreneur, he started up a company, and it was called, this is another reason why, another connection to India. He started a company called Amber. So AMBA, he was Bob, so that the B was initial of his name. So his company was Amber Lamps. And he had offices in Australia, he had offices in Germany, he had offices in India. And I remember one time when he was on one of his business trips to India, one of the workers came up to him and gave him this magazine cutout of the goddess Amber. So the name of his company was Amber, and they gave him this cutout of the goddess Amber. And it was literally just a piece of magazine. And the guy who was my dad's employee just wanted him to have this and wanted him to know that it was really important. It was the goddess of the name of the company. And he said, this will destroy all your worldly obstacles. And so my dad had this in his office for years, for as long as for as long as he had an office, he had this up in his office. And it's if you took it to a charity shop, you probably wouldn't get 50p for it. It's kind of but it's one of the most precious things that I have, that I keep in my office, like he used to have in his office. And that got me to thinking, you are inviting people into your life. They are not going to like everything. You've just got to not lose who you are, and you've just got to think, it's a plastic Ganesha, but it means a lot to me because of of my life and my life history and these things. If somebody was to say, I don't appreciate you having a picture of the goddess Amber, I'm like, well, it's a very important part of my life. It's one of the things that I would definitely save in a house fire, so just try to stay true to who you are, and not to really worry too much about what other people think about. Obviously, if you offend people, you say sorry, and I don't mean to offend people. I don't ever mean to offend people, but you are who you are, and you're inviting people into your life, and it's personal. People are kind of in your world, but some people are going to like it, some people aren't, but that's the way it goes.
Well, I mean, you've got a really good point there. It makes me think about a time that someone watched one of our YouTube videos and then emailed me and challenged my faith basis. And I had a real big wobble because there was an element of one of our videos, and the person who had done the video was a Christian. Obviously, I am a Christian. That we have lots of people from lots of different faith backgrounds at Tech Pixies, but we both had decided this was a really good piece of content to give to our prospective students. And so we used it. And I actually had someone challenge me personally in a direct message, not on the comments,
Sure.
Thankfully, but in a direct message where they just direct messaged me and they just said, it wasn't far off. You're doing the devil's work.
Right.
It's like, oh my gosh, no, I'm not, And, but I mean, I went into this personal crisis for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh my gosh, like, am I delivering something absolutely awful and not helpful? And whatever. But what I did have to go back to was, like you just said, why did we introduce this piece of content? And does this piece of content work? And, and then where's the biblical grounding for what we did as well, just so that I could kind of shore up that it was in line with my religion and my faith and et cetera. But it is really interesting because, people, what they might say to your face, what they might say online, they're not going to say to your face, and I think, if we were in a room with people, I mean, unless they were really upset and yelling at you, like at a protest or whatever, you're not really going to see those negative people in real life because you're not necessarily surrounding yourself with them. But I think it is, I think your question of why did I have this there? What does this mean to me? And, and in the end, I decided not to pull it because I knew that it had impacted thousands of women in a positive way. And I felt really confident about the decision to move forwards with it. And also I knew the intention for what we were giving, the piece of content we were putting out there. The intention was to help people get clarity on their futures. The intention was, not for me to then manipulate their minds. That was not what the intention was. And I think when you put something out into the world, you know what your intention is. You know if you're using it for good or for bad. And we do know that we live in a world where there's a lot of unknowns, and there's there is a spiritual thread. No matter what religion you have, there is people are people because of other people. We're connected to each other. But we have to be careful about what we claim or don't claim, and what we say or don't say about other people's religions. So what I'm curious about is, what have you decided to do with the statue?
Oh, I'm going to keep it because I think that this is the thing. Your first response, I think, when you get a negative comment, especially in the early days, is kind of aim to please, and you're like, get rid of the statue, get rid of that part of my life. Well, no, because you are who you are. People might not like it, and they might have a good point. I mean, I'm not a Hindu. They might have a very good point, but at the same time, it's my life, it's my garden. I am inviting people in. And they are more than welcome to, question it. They're more than welcome to leave. But they're more than welcome to kind of question it and to say what they believe. And I heard what she was saying. I definitely wouldn't make a feature video out of it or anything.
But what's really, well, we're doing it now. We're doing the feature video now.
Oh yeah, no, I saw.
But here, let me throw this out there. I have a mentor who I just love her. She's amazing. And one of the things she taught me to say when people point out criticism, because it's really easy when someone criticizes you, I can't say that word, when someone criticizes you, that you suddenly get defensive and you try and defend why you did what you did. And she said that's pretty much the worst thing you can do is get defensive when someone criticizes you. So she has a trick that she's taught me, which I love. And then the crazy thing is she used it on me. So she taught me this trick, and then I pointed out something in her program that was obvious to me, probably not obvious to her, but that all of the curriculum in the program was written by white males that were older, and there was no female voice and there was no diversity. So I pointed this out to her, and my question to her was, well, where do I go if I want to read about this stuff written by women? Because all I have are books from white men. Yeah. And anyway, and it wasn't a criticism. It wasn't meant to be a criticism. But the way that I posed the question was, in the books you recommend, there are no women and there's no diversity. Where would I go to find that? And she said, "Thank you for pointing that out to me." And that was her trick. She had said to me, in a previous coaching call, or to everyone that was on the coaching call, she'd said, whenever someone criticizes you, instead of getting upset, you say, "Thank you for pointing that out to me. Yeah. I'll look into it, or I'll get back to you," and give yourself the time and the space to be upset about it, but then to process it and think about, how can I handle that a different way? Or what are the different responses that I could, come up with? And I think, for me in that situation where someone criticized, who I was fundamentally, I did have a bit of a panic freak out, and actually I responded really quickly. And I think it would have been really helpful, actually. And in the end, we smoothed it over. But in the end, it was real, and it wasn't public. It was in a private direct message, which I think is so much better when you have controversy. But obviously, you also can't put a lot of energy into that because it drains you. But it was just that point that I was thankful it was on DMs, not on the actual video itself. And then second of all, I was able to get to that point where I could process it. But I really love that concept of saying to someone immediately, thank you for pointing it out to me. Let me get back to you. Or thank you for pointing it out to me. I really appreciate your opinion. And, I'm sorry if it offended you. And you sort of leave it at that. But I love that you chose to keep it because you have reasons why. And I think it's really important because one of the things that we at Tech Pixies acknowledge is that when women finally get up the courage to take off the invisibility cloak and put themselves out onto social media, one of their greatest fears is rejection. And one of their greatest fears is these negative comments and the trolling, et cetera, which is why a lot of people don't love YouTube. And it's actually one of the reasons we've said we're not going to keep pushing YouTube because it's just not a place that a lot of people like to hang out anymore. Twitter. I'm saying, oh my gosh, I meant to say Twitter, not YouTube. We're pushing YouTube. We're not pushing Twitter. Yeah. But I think it's important to be aware of this, that it might happen, and then be prepared and have a plan.
I hear that, but I mean, don't lose sight. I think of for every negative comment, you've probably got 100 positive comments. They're few and far between, really. They are few and far between. Some people, I don't know, some people on YouTube, maybe they've got nothing better to do, I don't know. But it's a big audience. It's a really, really big audience, isn't it? If you think about it. So you're going to attract all sorts. But don't lose sight of the absolute pleasure you can get out of it as well. When I love when I've attracted somebody that's got the same interests and they share a video of something that they've done and there's a big community. And somebody might even give you a shout out in one of their videos. I've had YouTubers who I really like who've started following me, and that's so exciting. So there's so much to celebrate about YouTube. That sort of fixating on this negative is just not worth it, actually.
Not worth it.
All
right. Well, and I think I just want to say thank you. I think that was a very worthwhile discussion. I think a lot of people needed to hear that. All right. So any top tips? We're wrapping up this podcast. Any top tips for those newbie YouTubers out there?
Yeah. One thing that I forgot to say as well about niching down. Okay. If you can't niche down, if you say to yourself, but I love tennis and I love fossils, sticking with that reference, then you need to create 2 channels. So you can separate them off. So I think it's really important that you focus on, like I say, niche down, focus on what you're doing. Maybe 2 channels is too much to start off with. So maybe you focus on one to start off with.
That's where I would say if you could do both and they were both successful, which one would you do? And here's the thing. In a normal traditional Instagram, this is why I think it's different. In a normal traditional Instagram feed, you could talk about fossils and tennis and you could mix it up and that's part of your personality. But in YouTube, you can then take multiple topics within fossils and multiple topics within tennis, and that's going to work in your favor. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you think about if you think about a minute of time, how much you actually are able to say in a minute of time, a minute is actually quite a long time. It really is. So in the amount that you're actually putting out there in a minute of video is compared to Instagram, which is obviously, photography mostly. You're putting out so much more. So it needs to be specific.
So tell us where people can find you on YouTube.
Oh, you can find me and I've just got my own URL because when you pass 100 followers, that's your first milestone. You can find me at You Grow Girl. So YouTube / You Grow Girl UK. And I had to have the UK because You Grow Girl was taken. But I am the #1 out of You Grow Girl. So I've got more subscribers than the other You Grow Girls. But that is another thing. I didn't know this until yesterday, I think. On YouTube, people can have the same name as you. They can't have the same URL. So it's annoying. There could be loads, but don't worry about it. Just make sure you're the best one, I think.
I love it. Well, Lisa Mellis, wonderful to have you here. You're always a pleasure to have on the podcast. You're funny. You're entertaining.
Thanks for having me.
and you're daring. And let me just ask you this last question, because we're going to wrap it up. Remember when you were nervous about launching this YouTube channel and you were messaging me? Are you glad you did it?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I was talking so much about strategy, but I don't worry too much. Just go and have fun and get in there, and you'll find your feet. I mean, obviously, I remember some of the early days, Joy, of when we used to go on a live together. That was petrifying. I mean, I've been a teacher. I've stood in front of classroom of people, but going on a Facebook Live, God, I found that terrifying in the early days. But you find your feet, and I know a lot of you at Tech Pixies, you put out your live videos, and it's very nerve-wracking, and I really feel that. But you'll become comfortable in front of the camera, you know, and you'll just be you'll before long you won't even be thinking about whether you look stupid, whether people are agreeing with you, disagreeing with you, or whatever. You'll just become comfortable, and your content is going to get better and better. So relax, enjoy yourself, and I do it. Put it out there, because you never know what's going to turn into. I wish I'd started 3 years ago. Isn't that the best time? Isn't that the best time to start 3 years ago?
Well, the best time to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago. The next best time to plant an oak tree is now. And I think that's the message that's coming loud and clear. Lisa, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I appreciate your time. And I know people who are going to be diving into the YouTube module at the Social Media Magic program are really going to love this bonus interview to watch. And I know we're going to be really excited to see how YouTube channels take off for our students as they get guidance. But of course, if you're just starting and you have no knowledge whatsoever of YouTube and you're not yet in the Tech Pixies program, definitely go to techpixies.com/YouTube to grab our amazing new free guide, Get Started on YouTube, that was created by one of our incredible coaches, Abby Moore. So thanks again. Really appreciate it, Lisa. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you.